In their minds, would be extremely limited of possibilities where they could go because of all the churches that were called trash cans. First, they can't go to any church that isn't one that's Pentecostal.
They can't go to a Trinitarian church if they truly believe that they are going to be reprobate if they do. Or if they want their kids baptized in Jesus' name and they haven't been baptized yet, or any of a number of other things. It's not like they can go to a Trinitarian church. They can't go to another Pentecostal church in the area because Pentecostal churches in the area are generally referred to as trash cans. They can't go to most of the churches in the surrounding area because they're pastored by other people out of Faith Tabernacle and that don't want the problems between themselves and Faith Tabernacle, which is understandable in its way, but it's very hard on people who are leaving, who don't feel like they've got any choice but to leave. And they can't go to the other churches, the other oneness churches in driving distance because they've been told that those are terrible places to go. And in most cases end up having the gossip follow them anyway because of the interplay between certain members in those churches and Faith Tabernacle. So they're going to end up with the gossip and everything if they do. They also can't just go and move wherever they want to move because, for instance, in Kansas, there are maybe 10 churches that Edwin would have said were decent churches in Kansas. In Missouri, there are 2 or 3. In Indiana, I know of 2 or 3. In Ohio, I believe that there were 4 or 5. We're talking about entire states, and that those are the only churches that Edwin would fellowship. We didn't have contact, and actually what makes it even worse is Apostolic Pentecostals are, unlike other oneness Pentecostals like the UPC, they don't have a directory. You can't look in the phone book and find each one of those churches. You have to already know they exist as a member to be able to even find them and contact them to find out if they would accept you into their church. And since most of the churches that people like Edwin fellowship are friends of theirs, it's not like you're going to call them and say, you know, I had a really bad experience in Faith Tabernacle, but I still want to live for God. Can I come there? And this friend of Edwin's is going to say, oh, yeah, I believe everything you said. They're going to call into question everything you said. You can't look them up on the internet because they don't believe in the internet. They don't have websites. Unless you have a connection through friends there or whatever. And Edwin preached against us having pen pals, having people email back and forth from other churches. There was to be no communication with any member in any other church anywhere. United States, overseas, anywhere. We were not to communicate with any other person in any other church in our fellowship without his express permission at any time for any reason. Now, when we went to camps and stuff like that, it was okay to say hello. We could talk a little bit there, but we were not to have any kind of ongoing relationship without his express permission. People got in trouble for that. We could not have Facebook. We could not have any other kind of communication like that. No social media. So it wasn't like we were going to communicate that way. We were very, very limited in contacts with other churches. I made a list before I left of churches every time that I would go to a camp meeting, every time that I would go to any kind of a conference or anything. I made a list of all of the preachers' names that were there and where they were from, so that when I left Faith Tabernacle, I would know of some place that I could go. because if I didn't, I wouldn't have any idea where I could find a quote-unquote good apostolic church to go to, because I was afraid that I would leave and not be able to find a church. So I had a list in my phone of pastors that I could at least, I might know I could go there, or they might know of somebody where I could go, something. I kept that list up for about, 8 months, 9 months before I finally realized that it wasn't gonna change anything to go to another church that was the same. I needed to get away from the whole atmosphere. There's something unhealthy about the whole foundation of that, not just about one church or one man. The limitedness on who you can contact and the questionability of any other. I mean, you'd go to other churches for fellowship or whatever, and you'd come back and you'd hear about how that we know the deal. They may do things different, but we know the deal. Any little difference in standard, any little difference in hairstyle, any little difference like that was looked down on by Faith Tabernacle. One church will have sequins on their clothes, another will not. One church will accept open-toed shoes, another will not. One will accept sandals at church, another will not. Well, what Faith Tabernacle taught was supposed to be the best, and we should not consider doing anything other. Faith Tabernacle didn't pluck their eyebrows. People from other churches did. That made other churches less than Faith Tabernacle was. It got down to that kind of silliness.